Hello everyone, and welcome to Living Coast in your living room. My name is Ashley. I am one of the educators here at the Living Coast Discovery Center. Now, here on Facebook, we are bringing you all kinds of different interactive opportunities for you to still learn about nature. Every day at 11 a.m., we broadcast our videos on Facebook and then later share them on our YouTube channel. So if you catch into this video later or you want to rewatch it, you can always join on our YouTube channel, as well as share that with anybody else whom you might think will be interested in learning a little bit about nature. Now, here at the Living Coast Discovery Center, we are located down in Chula Vista on the San Diego Bay National Wildlife Refuge, which gives us a unique opportunity to present animals from all over the San Diego region and highlight some of the important aspects of our National Wildlife Refuge system. Now, because of where we're located, we're actually going to be focusing today on marshes. So today's focus will be on marshes. Be sure to join in with us throughout the week as we talk about all kinds of different animals, native habitat spaces, and the homes that they live in too. All right, so today we're going to be focusing on marshes. Do you know what a marsh is? Well, if you look behind me, we're actually surrounded by a marsh here at the Living Coast Discovery Center, so you get a great chance to view it during this video. But a marsh is actually going to be a wetland habitat. It is a type of habitat that is going to be characterized by different periods of flooding and low-lying plants. Here at the Living Coast, we are actually specifically located on a saltwater marsh. That means that our marsh is actually going to be affected by saltwater or ocean. Marshes can be impacted by different things to cause those periods of flooding, whether it be through oceans, making it a salt marsh, or it could be a freshwater marsh where it's flooded out by rivers or deltas and even heavy rains. Here in San Diego, we don't generally get super heavy rains, but we do have marshes up and down our coastlines. And specifically, we have those saltwater marshes here. We are affected by the tides. As the ocean comes in for its high tide every day, it brings water in, out, across this area here, and floods out a lot of these different plants behind me. And then during low tide, that ocean water pulls back out, leaving behind a lot of small pools of water, sometimes ponds, as well as a ton of different mud. Now, the animals that live inside of these habitats, including the plants, they all have to be adapted to this different lifestyle. They have to be able to withstand periods of flooding as well as periods of that drying out with lots of mud. Now, there's a lot of different adaptations that these plants and animals have to help them to be able to survive while they're in there. Now, marshes are very important for our ecosystems as well as for us. Can you think of any benefits that a marsh habitat might provide for humans or for animals? So as always, if you have any questions, comments, answers to my questions, go ahead and leave those in those comments below. We'd love to hear for those. So if you have any idea what functions a marsh might be able to perform, whether it be for humans or for just the natural ecosystem, either one, let me hear it. What do you guys think? So one of those benefits that a marsh provides is that it is actually a buffer zone. Marshes are going to be able to help protect coastlines from storm surges as well as from coastal erosion. So storm surges are what happens when there's lots of storms out in the ocean and those giant waves come crashing into the shorelines. And with a buffer zone like a marsh, it allows an area for those waves to crash down and then kind of dissipate or calm down before they impact the city. So if you think about like an area like over by La Jolla where they have those really big sharp rock cliffs, without a buffer zone, those cliffs are what's forming because the waves are crashing down onto that dirt and bringing down a lot of that dirt with it, causing those sharp canyons that you might see. So that's one reason that marshes are important for humans, for those buffer zones. They help protect our cities. Coastal cities are very reliant on having those buffer zones so that they don't go anywhere, because otherwise our streets would flood out every time we had a big storm out in the ocean. Luckily for us, we don't have things like hurricanes here, so that's one really good benefit of living in San Diego. What about animal benefits? I think I've seen some answers coming in that said some different benefits like food sources. I think that's what Barry said, and a couple of other choices as well. And that's correct. Marshes definitely provide food sources for all kinds of different animals, but they also provide important resting stops. Not sure if you guys can hear it, but there's a lot of birds around me right now. And these birds that are actually over here are seasonally here nesting. They are a bunch of swallows, and they nest in this area on the marshes and around on the sides of the buildings here. And without these marshes along the way, these migratory birds would not have a place to stop and rest. So they need to be able to have places to stop. Have you ever heard of the Pacific Flyway before? Well, the Pacific Flyway is a huge route where all kinds of different migratory birds travel every year during their winter time when they're trying to go south or when they're trying to go back up north. And we in San Diego are located perfectly within that spot. Now that means our marsh habitats provide those resting areas for all of those birds to be able to stop and take a moment and rest. It also gives them a place to be able to find more food, and it also is a very important place for nesting habitats for a lot of different bird species. Can you think of any birds that we may have talked about previously on the Living Coast in your living room that might be important to a marsh habitat? This was part of our Earth Day trivia, if you remember back then. There's a species of bird that's considered endangered that we are actually part of a reintroduction program here at the Living Coast, and they are native to our region where they rely on these marsh habitats. Their habitat space is in this marsh grass. So if you remember, it's going to be the light-footed ridgeway rail. The light-footed ridgeway rail is a bird that nests in these marsh habitats and relies heavily on these grasses to be available for them to be able to build their nests. You guys probably can't see it because they're way out there in the distance, but actually behind me there are some different rail nests out there that U.S. Fish and Wildlife has created in conjunction with us, where we work together to build these nests to place out on the marsh refuge so that they can be able to float up with the tides and back down with the tides, leaving that nest behind. So they're very important to care for these birds. Now there's another aspect of a marsh that's very important for us, and this one was really important to you if you like to go swimming, surfing, snorkeling, really anything out in the ocean. And marshes actually act like a sponge. And this is probably one of the most important aspects that a marsh is able to do. So whenever it rains, do you remember last week we talked about watersheds? All that area from the rain, it all has to come down and it goes directly into one area for that watershed, right? Well, here in San Diego, a lot of the time, all those watersheds go directly into the Pacific Ocean. There's a bird sitting right up the top of my head right here. So just like we talked about, all that water does go into that one place. And along the way, it collects all kinds of different nutrients, whether it be sedimentations, minerals, or things like fertilizers and even pesticides. As those collect, they work their way down into that marsh habitat. And the way that the marsh habitat is, it's actually able to absorb some of those excess nutrients before they wash out into the ocean. So it helps keep our ocean water clean. And that is what we're going to actually get to focus on next. We're going to see what a marsh works like in action. So we're going to make our own water filter today. So if you have the supplies, if you checked up on our different posts throughout the week, we've been sharing it and letting you know ahead of time some materials that you need. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make that water filter today. All right. So first things first, you're going to need a water bottle, and then you're going to need to cut it in half. So make sure you are doing this carefully, as it can be kind of hard to cut plastic. So I just use my scissors, cut it in half, and you're going to save these two parts for later. You also need another water bottle, and this one you need to fill up with water. Now, first step for this water filter is we're going to need to make dirty water. So first you get your water, and then you're going to need to grab out some different types of dirt. So I have some compost here, some clay, and I also have some sand. So it doesn't matter what you use to make the dirty water. You want to use whatever you have in your own backyard. That's the best thing about this water filter activity, is you can do it using whatever it is you have at home. So you don't need to go out and buy something special. You don't need to buy anything at all, really. Just go outside and scrape up some dirt and throw it in your water bottle. So that's what I'm going to do now. All right, so I got some dirt in here, and I'm going to put my hand over the top because I don't have a lid and give it a good shake. doesn't look super dirty, right? It's dirty, but mostly big chunks, so I'm going to mix in some different types of dirt here, so that way it's a little bit more dirty, so you can get the full effect of what should be happening with your water filter. All right, let's try that. Give it a good shake. Looking a little better. So the trick is you want to make as much dirty water as you possibly can, so keep adding things into it. Once it's ready though, you want to leave it alone. So then you're going to set it down. And you're going to build the rest of the water filter while that sits there and starts to settle. Now I'll move this a little closer. There you go. All right, so now to build your actual water filter, you're going to take that top half of the water bottle that you had, remove the lid. We don't need that part right now. And you're going to take a cotton ball and put it inside of the mouthpiece, just like that. The other parts that you need are going to be a portion of a coffee filter. You can use a whole coffee filter if you want, or just take off a piece. You really don't need the whole thing. So I'm just going to rip this one in half and take a small little piece of it. You're going to put the coffee filter around the outside of that water bottle, and then use a rubber band to hold it in place. Now this part can be a little tricky, so if you need an additional hand, ask someone to help you out. So that way you can see that coffee filter is rubber banded around the outside of the water bottle with the cotton ball on the inside. All right. Now the bottom half of your water bottle is actually going to be what catches your water. So you're going to put this part inside of that bottom half. So the top half inside of the bottom half. And that's what you're going to leave to set. But while you're doing that, you need to fill in all of the natural different parts in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in some different parts of sand and dirt and rocks. Now you can put in as much dirt and sand as you would like. You can use two different types of dirt if you have it. So if you have maybe a little finer dirt in the backyard, but kind of gravel in the front yard, you want to go ahead and grab a little bit of both of that. So you can put in as much dirt or as little dirt as you prefer, and you can see how clean you can get this water. So I'm going to put in a little bit of this dirt here, and I'm going to put in a little bit of the other dirt that I have. Hopefully that doesn't blow away. It gets really windy out here in our back deck area at the Living Coast, so I'm trying to make sure none of my materials blows away in the wind, because then that wouldn't be a very good video. So some sand here. You guys don't need to see that. All right, so I've got one type of dirt, another type of dirt, and then the last thing I'm going to put on there is going to be some rocks. So now I have some different pebbles that I'm going to put on the top. You can use bigger rocks than this. You can use smaller rocks than this. Again, use whatever you have around you. So the more rocks, the less rocks, whatever you want. The coolest part about this water filter is it is your own. So as you make it, you can try different variations to see which one is going to get you the most clean water. All right, so that's going to look good to me. So now while we've been building that, look what's happened to our dirty water. It has started to settle. You can see in the center, we mostly just have that different coloration pattern. We have most of the big chunks sitting down here at the bottom, and then some lighter, smaller chunks up here at the top that are floating. So this is what happens when water sits. It is going to be that sedimentation process. So the things that are big and heavy will sink down to the bottom, and the lighter pieces will float up to the top. That's why we did the water first, so it had time for all of this to settle, so we can dump it into our filter and see what happens. So once you have your dirty water and your filter, you're going to go ahead and take it and dump it in there. And you can dump in as much water as you would like. It is going to be a slow process before it starts to come down, so don't be alarmed if it takes a little bit. And this is how this natural process works. So let's see how cleaner this water can get. See, as the water works through, it goes through those rocks, through the sand, through the different type of dirt, and then it drips on out through. And we can see how clean we can get this water. And the more you do this, the more different results you're going to get. Now, we are filtering the water. We are not purifying it. So you could not start drinking this water here because I did mix it with a bunch of dirt. It's not going to be good for you. So this is filtering. So it's taking out some of those excess nutrients and removing some of that stuff from the water. That's what's going to be left behind up here. And down here you have cleaner water than what you started with. Now, if you were going to drink this water, you would then need to purify it or disinfect it. So that would be a whole nother step, but we're not going to cover that today. All right, so while that's going through, let's get a chance to compare what we started with what our finished product was. Do you guys think those are different water clarity levels? I think so. Now, the dirtier you make the water, the more impressive your end result is going to be. And you'll get a chance to see more of that. Now, I did see a question up there a little bit ago that was asking about marshes in California and how many are still left. And that is actually what we're going to talk about next. So thank you for waiting for that. I did see it a while ago, but wasn't ignoring you, I promise. So our last thing that we want to talk about is going to be how we can actually help marshes. What do you guys think? Do you think there's stuff you can do to help marshes out there? Well, California has a very large coastline. We are a coastal state. We have a border running up and down that whole entire coastline. And it's really important that along that way, we are caring for our marsh habitats. So since we have such a large coastline, do you think we have a lot of marshes across that coastline as well? Well, historically we did. But unfortunately, as we have developed cities, agriculture, even caused dams for different water sources, this has all impacted our watershed, and this has all ultimately affected all of our marshes. In California, only 10% of historical marshlands still exist. We've lost 90% of our marshes here in California, and that is not a good thing. So what you can do, you can get involved with different local restoration projects to help all over in your local area. So it doesn't matter if you live here in San Diego, if you live in Chula Vista, you live in Encinitas. There are many different local conservation groups that you can get involved with that are doing different habitat restoration projects to protect our coastlines. Here at the Living Coast, we actually host different events throughout the year that are focused on habitat restoration. Now, that sounds kind of complicated, right? When you hear habitat restoration, it sounds like it might be something really intense, but it's actually not. Habitat restoration can be things as simple as just picking up trash. So we host trash cleanups throughout the year, our team up to cleanup events, and we also do things like planting native plants in restored areas. So that's a great way that you can get involved. So if you're interested in those, you do want to double check that you can see what events are happening in your area and then come join us. We love to see you coming out with us and participating in our team up to cleanup events. Yes, Rachel, those are cliff swallows behind me. They have been flying around this whole time and sitting really close to me right next to one of our umbrellas that is out here on the back deck. And I'm glad you guys got a chance to see those, as they're part of our migratory birds that happen to stop by here. So it's really great for you to get a chance to see and learn about some of these native birds and habitats. Now, if you have any other questions, feel free to comment those. I would love to answer those for you. As always, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time on Living Coast in Your Living Room. See you next time.